Before starting, make sure you have a white worksheet called Variables that Affect Air Pressure, and make sure you have downloaded the weather observations, 20 days of weather observations from Moodle into your Notability folder. If you haven't done that, pause the video and make sure you have what you need for this activity. Second, make sure you're watching the correct video. This video is for people C and D, so if you're person C or D in your lab group, this is the one you should be watching. I'm going to explain how to graph the dew point temperatures that we've been collecting. So if you look at the white sheet, fill in the top box just as a review from air pressure. If you need to check your notes, do that. You are going to be graphing the relationship between air pressure and dew point. If you look at your graph, the air pressure data has already been plotted. The left y-axis is already labeled. So the way you would read this is observation day 5. The air pressure was about 30.2. Now I can't use this y-axis for dew point temperatures, so we're going to be setting up a separate y-axis on the right that you'll use to plot dew point. But before we do that, let's set up the graph. If you look down at the bottom, you can circle dew point because that's what you're plotting. Our graph needs a title. So what is this a graph of? Just think about what are we trying to represent on this graph. We need to make sure the x-axis and the y-axis are labeled, and we need to make a key. So let's start with the title. So what are we plotting on this graph? This is the relationship between what two variables? Next, look at your key. What colors are you going to use for air pressure and dew point? Please use 2 colors. Don't just use pencil. Makes the graph easier to read when you use color. And then for your axis, the air pressure axis is almost done, but it does not have units. So what units do we use to measure air pressure? If you don't remember, check your notes. And then on the right side, this is where we're going to put our dew point units. Again, what do we measure dew point in? Look at your weather data, and hopefully that will help you. And then I've looked at the dew point temperatures we have, and it looks like the lowest we have is 16, and the highest is 50 degrees Fahrenheit. So if you set up your y-axis on the right, you always need a 0. But then remember that sort of Z symbol means we're going to cut out some numbers. Start at 15 and then number every other line by 5s. So 15, 20, 25, 30, etc. And then your x-axis, these are not the dates. So what are these numbers? Again, look at your weather data table. Maybe that will help you figure out what these numbers actually represent. And then carefully plot your dew point data. So on our first observation, what was the dew point temperature? And you're going to use the right side to read that. So let's say on day 1 it was 20. Here's our 20 line. So we'll put a dot right there. So I would do your dots in pencil and then connect them. And when you're finished with your graph, flip it over and you have some questions to answer. So overall, look at your graph. If the lines tend to go up and down together, that would be called a direct relationship. If you see more of a trend of one going up when the other goes down, that is an inverse relationship. Question number 2 on the back is pretty straightforward. It's basically what did you graph? That might give you an idea for a title. And then your conclusion. So when we look at your air pressure, every time the air pressure went up, so we have a number of times that it goes up. Here's a big one. What did the dew point do? Okay, and again, dew point temperatures actually represent water vapor in the air. So high dew point temperatures mean there's a lot of water vapor in the air, and low dew point temperatures indicate dry air. When you're finished, you're going to have a discussion with your lab group to compare what your graphs showed you. And then later you're going to be doing a lab that will help you understand why dew point affects air pressure.